Right now, the testimony our lawmakers in Washington didn't hear. Newtown parents speak out in support of better gun violence prevention measures. We'll share their powerful words. And next, Chuck Hagel grilled on Capitol Hill today. Why are some Republicans so opposed to confirming one of their own? And later, how should Ravens linebacker Ray Lewis be remembered? As a leader or as a louse? Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Andrew Whitman. Richard French is on assignment. We will hear from him later on in our program. We begin with the spirited testimony in Washington, D.C. yesterday from both opponents and supporters of new gun legislation. But it was the brief testimony from former Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords that felt the most poignant. You wouldn't know it by watching the way she arrived on Capitol Hill yesterday, but it was just 2 years ago that a bullet shattered Gabby Giffords' skull.
Too many children are dying. Too many children.
They were the very first words she's spoken before Congress, and she was shocked. She used them to implore her former colleagues to act against gun violence.
It will be hard, but the time is now. You must act. Be bold, be courageous. Americans are counting on you.
And with that, Giffords left the hearing, leaving her husband Mark Kelly to take on the National Rifle Association's point man, Wayne LaPierre, over just how Congress should act. Kelly argued for better background checks for all gun sales.
My wife would not be sitting in this seat. She would not have been sitting here today if we had stronger background checks.
My problem with background checks is you're never going to get criminals to go through universal background checks.
And Kelly said that if the man who shot his wife had been limited to a 10-bullet ammunition clip, a little girl killed that day might still be alive today.
The first bullet went into Gabby's head. Bullet number 13 went into a 9-year-old girl named Christina Taylor Green.
LaPierre said new laws would only punish those who don't break the law.
Law-abiding gun owners will not accept blame for the acts of violent or deranged criminals.
When it was over, Kelly went over to shake LaPierre's hand. The two only agreed on one thing: the need for stronger measures to keep guns out of the hands of the mentally ill. Now, what the Senate did not hear was the testimony in Connecticut yesterday at a hearing in Newtown High School. Community members, parents of victims, and local ER doctors, they all spoke passionately about the need for change.
The liberty of any person to own a military-style assault weapon and a high-capacity magazine and keep them in their home is second to the right of my son to his life. His life, to the right to live of all of those children and those teachers, to the right to the lives of your children, of you, of all of us, all of our lives. It is second. Let's honor the founding documents and get our priorities straight.
We stop being the world's greatest country when we allow our most vulnerable citizens to be slaughtered because we might offend people by taking away their guns. We stop being something to be proud of when we love our guns more than we love our children.
Allow me as a medical doctor, when I see a patient or when my colleagues see a patient, when I educate them on the effects of alcohol or tobacco, safe sex, motor vehicle accidents, can I please talk to them about the risks of gun violence, please?
Some poignant words there. Again, the question of what should be done in the wake of this tragedy has arisen. And joining me tonight to discuss this and everything else on our docket tonight, Michael Tobman, political consultant and former advisor to Senator Chuck Schumer, principal at Hudson TG. Dominic Carter, political journalist and author, and Tom Doherty, former advisor to Republican New York Governor George Pataki. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Let's just go around the table quickly. Where are we all on gun control measures? I suspect that, I know this side of the table is in favor of gun control, correct?
Yes, I believe there can't be too many controls on these weapons, on the ammunition, on the size of the clips, and on who gets to carry and what the background checks would look like.
strongly in support of gun control.
All right, and Tom is the Republican at the table?
I mean, I think that there are, I'm in favor of some reasonable things like background checks, et cetera. I think that, the magazines, I have no problem with having that conversation. But as you saw in Chicago this past weekend, I mean, illegal guns, handguns, are killing the youth of this country. And unfortunately, we had Newtown. But we also had the Oklahoma City bomber who, killed 167 people by putting some fertilizer in a truck. Madmen are going to get these dastardly weapons one way or the other. They're going to kill people. So I think we got to go about it, but as you see, that there is a lot of passion on both sides of this issue.
Obviously and always. I want to get to Wayne LaPierre's argument before Congress yesterday when it came to background checks. And he said that criminals aren't going to go through background checks anyway, so it's going to do nothing to keep weapons out of the hands of people who shouldn't have them. There is some validity to that argument, isn't there?
No, I disagree. I believe that the issue is getting as many guns as possible off the streets and keeping the number of guns available at what should be an all-time low. Background checks will discourage people from being straw purchasers and will keep them from engaging in this sort of pass-through troublemaking. It's about keeping guns, just fewer guns in circulation. And if the positive impact of fewer guns is not felt immediately, it will be felt a year, 18 months, 2, 3 years down the road when there are just fewer guns.
I couldn't agree more. Something has to be done to discourage these types of sales in anything. I mean, I just don't understand the other side of the argument. Let's do nothing, absolutely nothing, and less regulation is best. I mean, come on, let's get real.
Well, how many gun deaths did we have in the country last year? So somebody said to me over the weekend, we were talking about this, I think 32,000, 31,000.
Yeah.
How many were suicides? Somebody said to me 27,000.
It's a big percentage.
27,000 out of 31. That's what somebody reported to me. I think that a lot of this, you can either have one or the other, I think, in this case. And the first is never going to happen. There's no doubt that if we just took all guns out of the country, there'd be a difference. There's no doubt. That's not happening in our country, though, as we know, okay? I think the reasonable thing that we all agree on here is that if someone goes to purchase a gun, there should be a background check to find out whether or not they have mental illness, whether or not they've been on medication for any type of mental illness, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that those
also, how many guns have they purchased? You can't have a pharmacy. If you're a pharmacist, there is an accounting of how many pills are in the back of the drugstore.
So now you want to limit the amount. My friend who is an avid gun owner, an outdoorsman, a gun collector, has 40 guns in a vault locked in his home.
He's not the problem.
Exactly. And see, that's where you hit, Michael, you hit the nail on the head. Those are the people who feel like, I'm not the problem here. The problem is the young punk on the inner city street who gets an illegal gun, and you wind up not prosecuting those type of people fully to the extent of the law, and you're coming to get my gun.
But how does the person get the gun? How does a young person get the inner city youth? How does he get the gun?
He's not getting it at a gun show. He's buying it from some street guy who...
And the street guy bought it from somebody who bought it from someone who got it at a gun show. There's no gun fairy that comes and leaves them underneath pillows when you lose it too.
That's why I have no problem with the background checks, to make sure that in the sale of a gun you need to register, blah, blah, blah. I have no problem with all of that. None at all.